The door's creak didn't register until I heard his voice, soft and trembling. "Mom, why are you on the floor?" My heart stopped. My cheek burned, a sharp sting radiating from where Robert's fist had landed moments before. Blood-coated, my tongue, metallic and warm. Robert loomed above me, his breath heavy, his hands still balled into fists, knuckles white. For a moment, time froze me on the kitchen tiles. My son, Ethan, in the doorway, his backpack slung over one shoulder, his eyes, wide with shock, darted between us. Then his bag hit the floor with a dull thud, echoing in the silence. "Ethan," I croaked, scrambling to sit up, my voice breaking like brittle glass. "Go to your room, please." But he didn't move. His gaze locked on Robert, his small frame rigid, his hands trembling at his sides. "Did you hit her?" His voice was quiet but sharp, laced with fear and anger. A boy on the cusp of manhood confronting a truth he shouldn't have to know. Robert's face shifted, the rage melting into that polished, charming mask he wore for the world outside our home. "Nobody hit anybody, buddy," he said, his smile forced, his tone light. "Your mom tripped, you know how clumsy she is." Ethan's eyes flicked to me, taking in my swelling cheek, the split lip oozing red. He wasn't a little boy anymore, not at 14. He saw through the lie, his face hardening. "I saw you," he said, his voice low, steady, cutting. My heart shattered not from the pain in my face, but from the truth crashing into his world. All these years, I'd shielded Ethan, hiding the bruises, the fear. The nights I spent curled up on the bathroom floor, muffling sobs so he wouldn't hear. I thought I was protecting him, absorbing Robert's rage to keep it from touching my son. I told myself I stayed for Ethan, that he needed a father, that I had no money, no plan, no way out. But now, Ethan knew. His eyes, once bright with trust, now held a shadow that would never lift. Robert stepped toward him, casual, as if nothing had happened, his voice smooth. "Hey champ, let's not make a big deal, don't," Ethan snapped, stepping back, his voice a warning. Robert's mask slipped, just for a second, revealing the cold, dangerous glint he saved for me when no one else was watching. Ethan saw it, and I saw something shift in him, a spark of defiance, a breaking point. Later, in the bathroom, I pressed a damp cloth to my lip, the mirror reflecting a face I barely recognized. Ethan sat on the edge of the tub, his hands shaking as he handed me a tissue. "How long has this been happening?" he whispered, his voice barely audible, his eyes searching mine for answers I couldn't give. I wanted to lie, to say it was a one-time thing, but the truth was there in my bruised skin, my trembling hands. I stayed silent, my throat tight, my heart heavy with guilt. He sat beside me, quiet for a long time, the only sound the drip of the faucet. Then, in a voice steady with resolve, he said, "We can't stay here, Mom." I wanted to agree to say I had a plan, but I didn't. I had nowhere to go, no money, no safety net. But Ethan's words, his certainty, planted a seed. He'd seen the truth, and that truth was a spark that could ignite our escape. To the world, Robert was flawless. At school events, he'd charm teachers with his easy smile, cracking jokes that made parents laugh, shaking hands like a politician. He coached Ethan's soccer team one season, shoveled the neighbor's driveway after snowstorms, donated to every charity drive at church. When he brought me roses, people swooned, calling him the perfect husband, the ideal father. But I knew the truth behind the flowers. They came after his fists met my skin. After he'd pinned me against the wall, hissing threats through gritted teeth. After he'd left bruises where no one could see. The roses were his apology, part of a cycle as predictable as the season's rage, silence, gifts, pretense. He never struck where it would show, not until recently, when his control began to slip. I got good at hiding long sleeves, makeup, excuses for my clumsiness. I told myself I stayed for Ethan, that as long as Robert didn't touch him, I could endure. I convinced myself we needed him, that I had no options, no money, no one to turn to. Robert reinforced it, his voice low and mocking. "Where would you go, Anna? Who'd believe you?" I'd have Ethan in a heartbeat. He controlled everything, the bank accounts, the car, the house in his name. I hadn't worked since Ethan was born, a choice Robert encouraged, then enforced, isolating me until I was a shadow of myself. But Ethan's discovery changed everything. His fear, his guilt, his determination, they stripped away my excuses. I saw it in the way he watched me now, too closely, like he was afraid I'd break if he looked away. It wasn't supposed to be his burden, but it was. and that truth fueled my resolve to act. That night, I stared at the family photos lining our hallways, miles frozen in time, Robert's hand always on my shoulder, Ethan beaming in front, lies captured in perfect lighting. I remembered last Christmas, Robert playing host, laughing with my brother, carving the ham, toasting to family. Hours later, he'd slammed a glass against the counter when I forgot to refrigerate the leftovers. The shards cutting my hand as I cleaned up, blood seeping through my sleeve. No one knew. Friends still asked, "How's Robert?" Such a great guy. I'd smile, nod, say, "He's wonderful." But now, I was done lying. Ethan wasn't a child I could shield with silence anymore. He'd seen the monster, and I had to protect him now, not with excuses, but with action. 2 days later, Ethan confronted me again, his voice calm but firm, his eyes older than his years. "How long, Mom?" he asked, sitting at the kitchen table, his hands folded tightly. I tried to deflect, my voice weak. "It's complicated, sweetheart." But he didn't buy it, his gaze unwavering. "Don't lie to me," he said, his voice breaking. The next week, his school called. Ethan had shoved a classmate during recess after the boy made a careless comment about parents fighting. It wasn't just anger, it was a fire that had been smoldering in him, sparked by what he'd seen. At home, he barely spoke to Robert, eating in silence, retreating to his room. I thought he was withdrawing, but I was wrong. He was strategizing. I found out by chance, folding his laundry one afternoon. Behind his dresser, I spotted his old phone, one we'd replaced months ago, plugged in and powered on. It was recording, the screen showing a live feed of his room. My stomach twisted. This wasn't about school or teenage rebellion. This was about us, about Robert. That night, when Robert was out, I confronted Ethan, my voice low, my hands shaking. "What's this?" I asked, holding up the phone. He didn't flinch, didn't look away. "I've been recording since that night," he said, pulling a flash drive from his desk, "and a few times before. I knew something was wrong, Mom. I just didn't know how bad." My hands trembled as I took the drive, my heart racing. "If he finds this, he won't," Ethan said, his voice steady. I hid it well. That night, alone in my bedroom, I plugged in earbuds and played the recordings. My heart pounding as if the sound might wake Robert, asleep on the couch, with a beer bottle in hand. The first clip was quiet, then footsteps. My voice, small and pleading. "Robert, please, not tonight." His reply was sharp, venomous. "Don't tell me what to do." A crash, maybe a glass, maybe a plate, then my muffled sobs, my body, remembering the pain before my mind caught up. Another clip captured a slap, the sound crisp, my stifled cry following, broken and raw. I paused it, my hands shaking, my breath ragged. I pressed my palms to my ears, but the echoes lingered, a cacophony of fear and shame. I didn't sleep, the weight of the truth too heavy. The next morning, Robert acted as if nothing had happened, kissing my cheek, asking about dinner, telling Ethan to have a good day at school, his voice light, his smile practiced. I watched him leave, then locked the door, my hands trembling as I leaned against it, staring at the wood grain. My heart, pounding so hard I thought it might break through my chest. I thought of all the times I should have left the night he slapped me so hard my ear rang for days. The time he gripped my arm, leaving bruises like fingerprints. The time I called the police years ago, only for him to laugh as they stood on our porch. "Go ahead, call them," he'd said. "I'll be out in an hour, and you'll regret it." He was right, he was out, and he brought lilies that night, his apology soft, his promises empty. I stayed because I was terrified, because of Ethan, because I believed his lies that no one would believe me. But now, I had proof. Ethan's recordings were a lifeline, a reason to act, not just for me, but for him. I called a women's shelter hotline. The number saved under a fake contact name in my phone, my fingers hovering before I pressed dial. A calm voice answered. "Safe Haven Shelter, can I help you?" I didn't say my name, my voice a whisper. "I need help," I said, my throat tight. For the first time in years, I didn't feel utterly alone, the woman's voice a beacon in the dark. Ethan sat across from me at the kitchen table the next day, his arms crossed, his jaw tight, looking older than his 14 years. "I want to protect you," he said, his voice quiet but fierce. "I hate him." The words cut deep, not because they were untrue, but because my son had to feel this way, his childhood stolen by the truth. Then he dropped another bombshell. "I've been talking to a counselor at school," he said, his eyes steady. "She knows something's wrong. She didn't push, but I think she reported it to CPs. My heart raced, fear of Robert finding out, hope that someone else saw through our walls. She said, if it gets worse, they'll send someone to the house, he added, his voice firm. Then he pulled a small black device from his Pokita, USB with a tiny lens. A friend's cousin traded this for my old gaming console, he said. It's a hidden camera. My breath caught. Ethan, this is dangerous. I know, he said, his eyes hard with determination. But if we get him on video, hitting, yelling, anything, it's over. He can't lie his way out. I shook my head, fear gripping me, but his resolve was unshakable. You can wear it, Mom. Hide it in something. We don't have to wait for CP. I looked at the device, then at my son, his courage humbling me. He wasn't scared anymore, and maybe it was time I wasn't either. He handed me a silver locket, heart-shaped, its shine a little too bright. It's fake jewelry, he said, opening it to reveal the camera lens inside, but it's real protection. I held it, its weight heavy with meaning, with risk. Wearing it meant baiting the monster, standing in his path, inviting his rage. I wasn't sure I had that strength. But then came a close call. It was a Tuesday. Robert's mood dark from a bad day at work, the air thick with tension. I handed him his dinner roast beef, potatoes and stepped back, my heart pounding. He knocked the plate from my hands, food splattering across the floor. His fists clenched, his breath heavy. He didn't hit me, not that time, but his presence was a threat, his eyes dark with warning. Ethan watched from the hallway, silent, unseen by Robert. That night, I put on the locket, its cold metal against my skin, a reminder of what I had to do. 2 days later, I made my move. I set Robert's dinner cold pasta, a deliberate slighten, the table without a word. He glared. This it, he snapped. I met his eyes, my voice steady despite my racing heart. Matches the effort you give us, I said. His eyes narrowed, his voice low. What did you say? I sat across from him, the locket's weight grounding me. Just saying, it's nice you show up at all. Most men don't need to scare their families to keep them. The silence was suffocating, the air charged. He stood, his eyes dark, his voice a growl. You trying to start something? Why bother? I said softly. You finish it with your fists. That broke him. He flipped the table, pasta and plates crashing, grabbed my wrist, his grip bruising, his voice roaring threats that echoed in the small room. He didn't hit me, but the locket caught it all, his rage, his grip, his words, undeniable proof. After he stormed out, I locked the bedroom door, my hands shaking as I removed the locket, checking the footage. It had worked. We had him. I drove to a friend's office the next day, my hands trembling, the flash drive in my purse. Sarah, a lawyer I hadn't seen in years, had been my college roommate, my confidant. Until Robert deemed her too nosy and I let our friendship fade. When I walked into her office, she stood, her eyes widening at my bruised wrist, my haunted face. I handed her the drive without a word. She watched the video, listened to Ethan's audio, her face hardening. He's not just abusive, she said, her voice steady. He's a danger. We'll bury him. Her words gave me strength, a flicker of hope after years of darkness. She warned me not to go home without a plan, but I had to. Ethan was there, and Robert would notice my absence. When I stepped inside, the house was too quiet, the air heavy. Robert stood by the hall closet, holding an empty drawer from my desk, his eyes cold, looking for something. He asked, his voice a low threat. My stomach dropped, he knew. I tried to play it off. What are you talking about? But he wasn't listening, his movements deliberate as he locked the front door. Then the back, each deadbolt clicking like a gunshot. You think I'm stupid, he growled, pacing. You and that kid think you can take me down. My hand crept to my phone, hidden in my pocket, my fingers trembling as I texted Sarah one word. Now. I backed toward Ethan's room, praying he was safe, my heart pounding with the certainty we might not survive the night. Robert found Ethan in the hallway, his voice deceptively calm. You think you're safe because I'm your dad, he said, cornering him near the bathroom, one hand on the wall, blocking his path. Your mom's confused, Ethan. She's not well. Ethan's fists clenched, his voice steady. I saw you hit her, he said, louder now. You scare her. You scare me. I stepped out, my voice shaking but firm. Robert, stop. He turned, his eyes narrowing. Get back inside, he snapped. No, Ethan said, stepping in front of me, his voice trembling but resolute. You don't control us anymore. Robert raised his hand, his face twisting, but before he could move, 3 sharp knocks echoed. Police. Open the door. Robert froze, his hand hovering. The door burst open, officers flooding in, their eyes sweeping the scene and shielding me. Robert's raised hand, my bruised wrist. Robert Mason, you're under arrest for domestic assault and child endangerment, an officer said, cuffing him as he laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. You think this ends with me in cuffs? He shouted as they dragged him out. You think I won't get out? The door slammed, leaving silence. Ethan turned to me, his shoulders shaking, and I pulled him close, my tears falling as he held me, his strength anchoring us both. The next day, police returned with a warrant, searching the house. I thought they were looking for weapons, evidence of the assault. I didn't expect what they found. In the basement, behind a locked door, Robert always claimed held old tools. They uncovered a hidden room, its walls lined with shelves of broken phones, smashed cameras, and a box of torn photos, some burned at the edges. A locked drawer held IDs, one belonging to a woman missing for years, her face familiar from old news reports. Did you know about this? An officer asked, his voice tense. I shook my head, numb. The truth sinking in. Robert wasn't just abusive, he was something darker, a secret I'd lived with unknowingly. The media frenzy was relentless, reporters calling me the wife who didn't know, their cameras flashing outside our home. I refused interviews, shielding Ethan from the spotlight. Robert was charged with assault, child endangerment, evidence, tampering, and more, the basement's contents hinting at crimes beyond our home. In court, he stared at me, his smile cold, but it held no power. He was sentenced to decades. The gavels echo a release. Ethan and I left the state, moving to my sister's quiet town, her guest house, a sanctuary. We started therapy, rebuilding, piece by piece. I took a job at a bookstore, the work grounding me, my hands steady as I shelved novels. One night, I heard Ethan listening to the recordings, his face set. You don't have to, I said, sitting beside him. I want to, he replied, his voice firm. So I never forget who we beat. I took his hand, pride and love swelling in me. Robert's lies had trapped us, but Ethan's courage, his recordings, his locket, set us free. I kept a photo frame, empty on our new Tabala reminder, not of loss, but of victory, of the truth we uncovered, the life we reclaimed. For every woman who hides her bruises, who doubts her strength, who fears no one will believe her, that empty frame is for you. He tried to break me, but my son saw the truth, and together, we broke him.